For those of you who have been away for the summer, welcome back. For those of you who I haven't seen but you've been here for the summer, I'm sorry. And thank you for being here. And Dominican is a place of traditions, and traditions don't just mean things we've done for 110 or 20 years. They also mean sometimes things that we're starting anew. And as I thought about starting my second academic year at Dominican, I thought about the importance of gathering as a community, because we are one community, the importance of gathering as a community before we started the academic year. So I thought we would test drive this and see if we wanted to start a new tradition, a state of the university which really brings us together, thinks a bit about what we've done, introduces you to our new class, introduces you to your new colleagues, both faculty and staff, and allows us to think together about where we're headed as an institution. What's most important for all of you is to get to know new members of the Dominican community. I know this to be a very warm and welcoming community, but it's only possible to be warm and welcoming to new people if you know who they are and why they're here. So one of the big things we're going to be doing is introducing new people to you. And some of them are very exciting, if I do say so myself, because as you know, we've been working on building a strong leadership team at Dominican. And last spring, you might remember in one of our campus conversations, we discussed at some length the process for identifying a new provost and vice president for academic affairs. So we decided we would go ahead and launch the search this summer and have a highly representative committee in that process. That search committee was chaired by Dean Pitchford, staffed by Jen Kringle, and represented by Doug Carlston, John Kennedy, Christian Dean, Domingo Ramirez, Marianne Stickle, Bill Phillips, Chris Leeds, Cerise Apavu, Maggie Louie, Julia Welch, and Jody Hoppy. And they worked diligently through a strong slate of candidates, and you may notice that I'm speaking of them in the past tense. That's because at the end of their work, and it is concluded, the search committee, the cabinet, and I all reached consensus on our top candidate. Yesterday, many of you had a chance to meet him. Stephen Weisler, a professor of linguistics at Hampshire College. Steve's fantastic. He is going to be our next provost, but you need to know that the past is prologue, so what brought him here? Well, he received his doctorate in linguistics at Stanford, and he's been at Hampshire for most of his career. There he served as Dean of Academic Development, Dean of Cognitive Science, and Dean of Enrollment and Assessment, among a few other roles along the way. Although he's been based at Hampshire, he is one of the most nationally networked and nationally recognized people that I know of in higher education. He's earned a national reputation for collaborative work among liberal arts colleges, for leadership in securing grant funding from major higher education foundations, and for pioneering work in tying assessment to student learning. He's going to be a great fit. He couldn't be here today, but he did join the faculty yesterday, and you need to know that he flew out and took the red eye back just so he could meet you. He joined the faculty yesterday, and he's going to be on campus occasionally this fall as his schedule allows while he plans his transition. And then he'll join us full-time in January. So even though he's not here, please join me in welcoming Steve Weisler to campus. This summer, we also conducted a national search for a senior assistant to the president. Katie Bell, Francoise LePage, Marty Nelson, Mojgan Beymon, Julia Vanderrine, and Avery Jaffe served on this committee, and it was staffed by Sarita Parise. The position is funded by a generous gift from a trustee who believes in engaged learning, and the position will have lead responsibility for that work, as well as serving as a member of my cabinet and working closely with me. As I announced in a campus email, I am thrilled that Hannah Rodriguez-Farrar has accepted this position. Dr. Rodriguez-Farrar joins us from Brown University, where she served as the assistant to President Ruth Simmons. She holds a doctorate in art history from Brown, where she also served as the president of the Alumni Association and on the corporation of Brown University. Dr. Rodriguez-Farrar is presently completing her second doctorate, so she believes in education. She's working towards an EDD at the Harvard Graduate School of Education. Her intellect, energy, and insight will be a great asset to Dominican and my leadership. And if you don't believe it, then you need to talk to her. She's going to join us in January like Steve, but unlike Steve, she is here today. Hannah, would you stand and be recognized by the community? Last spring, we conducted a national search for a new dean of health and natural sciences. And what I remember about that conversation was that lots of the anxiety was before the search started. There was a lot of concern about whether we would find a leader who actually understood and had the credibility to lead all of the different departments within HNS. And then we actually started the search process. And we met Qinghua Wang, and our concerns were immediately alleviated. She has a doctorate in medicine from Beijing Medical College, but like Hannah, she didn't stop there. She then got a doctorate in immunology from Cornell University. So her expertise as a research scientist, her knowledge of the health professions, but also, and of equal importance, her commitment to students and her collaborative spirit have guided her career, and they've also already had a discernible impact here at Dominican. She actually began at Dominican in July, but I realize that summer is sometimes a difficult time to begin and that you haven't all met her. So, Ching, because of the time of your transition, I'd like you to stand so that the campus community could recognize you as well. We are about to begin a search for a new vice president for advancement, and I think the bar has now been set fairly high, but we're optimistic. We're optimistic because Nancy Cable, who served as the acting president of Bates College during their presidential search this past year, is helping us with our transition. Dr. Cable has extensive experience as a leader in higher education with specific expertise in development and strategic organizational positioning. From Guilford to the University of Virginia to Bates, she's covered some territory and left a great reputation everywhere she's been. She's going to help us this year by being on campus 1 week a month this fall to work with our advancement team, and will also be the lead consultant for our search for a new vice president. That search committee is chaired by John Bowerowski and is just getting started, but I'd like you to know who Nancy is and recognize her as well. Nancy? And finally, we have also already begun a search for a new athletic director. Many of you may know, but not everyone, that search is being led by Michelle Hinken, and I am pleased to announce that in the interim, Sharon Takeda has agreed to serve as acting athletics director for the campus. I don't know if Sharon's here today, I can't quite see all of you, but if she is, or even if she isn't, our thanks to Sharon for agreeing to do this. It's a great luxury to have someone of that skill. But in short, you have great new colleagues on the faculty and staff. We have a strong entering class, very much at the target level that we were hoping for in terms of entering numbers, and they've had an appropriate orientation to Dominican. So I want to take the next segment of this conversation and talk to you a little bit about what that means. Because although the conversation so far has been about who's new to the community, of equal importance is what we carry forward. And I spent a lot of time this summer thinking about that. I had a chance to think about the last year and what it meant for what are our next steps, not just in this year, but for many years to come. So I thought about that day in March of 2011 when I was introduced on the stage as your new president, and the generosity and the warmth of your welcome. And I thought about inauguration last fall, not just the time in this venue, but throughout the week, and the gathering of board members, faculty, students, staff, alumni, and sisters who came together to hold the history and the future of this institution. I thought about the community conversations we had, sometimes with PowerPoints and discussion and pizza, and sometimes over wine at the president's house, and sometimes simply walking on campus, although I think it was usually in the dining hall, so food seems to be a common theme here. I also thought about the conversations I had off campus with alumni and the ways in which Dominican had profoundly altered their lives. I thought about the meetings I had with Bay Area leaders and the enormous potential Dominican has in this most vital of communities. I thought about having dinner with the ASDU leaders and their concern for opportunities not just today, but for future generations of students. And I thought about another dinner with the Dominican sisters, where we laughed over the stops and starts inevitable to the evolution of a campus like this, even as we look to the future. All of these reflections made me think about what is distinctively Dominican and about Dominicans' place within American higher education. Because despite concerns, legitimate concerns, about cost and about access and about outcomes, higher education is still the single most effective means to personal and social transformation in the world. And the United States still boasts the most diverse and substantial higher education system ever created. Dominican occupies a particular place within that framework. So we know there are many types of higher education institutions. Where do we fit? Well, community colleges and regional public universities tend to offer general education, training, and student access, while research institutions change the way we live and work through advanced study, usually supported by premier research faculty and facilities. Dominican is a private university that offers the best of the liberal arts combined with rigorous professional education, and the combination is crucial. This is what makes ours a vitally important mission. It is vitally important because while higher education is indeed a means to personal opportunity, it is not merely an avenue to employment. Only a personalized education that integrates professional skills in the liberal arts consistently over decades transforms students' lives, and that is our work. The best of undergraduate education, the model on which Dominican will build, develops skills of profession and citizenship, invites students to find meaning in work and in culture, and asks students and alumni to contribute to our workplace and our communities. The crucial aspect of this work is the integration of the professions and the liberal arts. History, data, common sense, everything but the recession tell us that the separation of liberal arts education from applicable skills is a false dichotomy. It's one both unwise and unfounded. Employers consistently say that they want to hire graduates who can write, who can speak clearly, who are innovative, who are critical thinkers, who are sophisticated, who are comfortable with diversity. So our type of education is sorely needed in our society. But there are suggestions that it's not working. In his recent book, Twilight of the Elites, Christopher Hayes argues that the meritocracy first envisioned by Jefferson and later sought through diversity and access has not yielded a more just society. Instead, he suggests that greater access to opportunity has in fact led to greater corruption, as individuals at the top of society seek to protect their gains and limit opportunity for the next generation. His dismal assessment is accurate if, but only if, meritocracy is defined purely by individual success, and if higher education is designed only for personal advancement. And that is not what we do at Dominican. If we believe higher education is merely an individual gain, then we will graduate students who care little about their communities, lack a commitment to a larger purpose, and focus only on material achievement. But if we assume, and I believe we do at Dominican, that higher education offers the means to find both voice and vocation, personal meaning and practical skills, social good and individual achievement, then we will serve our students, our nation, and the world in a much more profound manner. This is not an isolated view. It's not merely a Dominican view. It is not an idealistic view or a naive view or one that neglects the market of higher education. In fact, it is a view corroborated by extensive research on higher education practice and embraced by today's students if we can get past the anxiety of employment. Contemporary students clearly understand that higher education offers a route to greater prosperity. And these same students also expect their university experience to offer a pathway to a life of meaning. Recent findings from UCLA's Higher Education Research Institute showed that for the first time in 25 years, more than 50% of first-year university students identified developing a meaningful philosophy of life as an important or very important goal of their college experience. And research by pollster John Zogby has found that a growing segment of United States citizens, driven by the younger population, believe that living a meaningful life is central to the realization of the American dream. So today's college students are more globally minded, less interested in work as a means only to material success, more willing to find middle ground on issues that have historically led to bimodal responses, and entirely comfortable with differences in race, gender, and sexual orientation. They hunger for an education that liberates, that frees the mind from the vagaries and prejudices of received opinion and limited life experience. And they seek an education that offers a path to an identifiable, fulfilling, rewarding career. In short, today's students expect the best of liberal education and the best of professional education. And at Dominican, we will deliver that education. This is why we talk about engaged learning. This is the point. Engaged learning, as we've envisioned it at Dominican, integrates the best of the professions and the best of the liberal arts, creating what the Association of American Colleges and Universities calls the liberally educated professional. This vision fits a national need and individual aspirations, and there is no reason we should not be one of the premier such institutions in the Bay Area and even in the nation. In fact, Dominican is perfectly positioned to take a leadership role in this effort. No institution in the country, none, has reinvented itself around our particular notion of engaged learning, because it's really hard, but we'll do it. By asking students to embrace a common, rigorous first-year experience, by expecting them to excel in the classroom, and to apply those lessons through service learning, leadership, study abroad, research, and internship programs, by challenging them to integrate the life of the mind with the life of engagement, by asking them to think and to serve, we will be providing students with the best of Dominican and the best of American higher education. In the words of the poet Wallace Stevens, we will ask our students and ourselves to find that place where the voice that is in us makes a true response, where the voice that is great within us rises up. So Dominican will craft a model of education that offers both a path to employment and a belief in the value of learning, a set of useful skills, and the ability to find value in something beyond oneself, a sense of accomplishment, and a commitment to serve. I have both confidence in and energy for this work, and it actually stems from our conversations last year, from learning this campus, and from learning this campus's people. So I ask you to think for a minute about what we have already accomplished. From an idea of transparent organization and a belief in accountability, we have developed a model of responsibility-centered management unique to Dominican. And that model is not simply an idea. It was put to the test in the creation of a new budget for this fiscal year, a collaborative budget that focused on our strategic priorities engaged all constituencies. But it was not only the process of budget creation that was new. Last fall, I told you that there are 3 ways to strategically manage a budget: reallocation of existing funds, fundraising for new efforts, and managing each year so that a surplus is available for further investment. We've now had a year to implement that philosophy. And I'm happy to report to you that in the budget for this new fiscal year, we have reallocated $1.3 million from central administration to the academic core and the student experience. We saw an increase in fundraising of 18%, including new gifts dedicated to engaged learning and to scholarship funds. And we managed last year's operating budget precisely as planned. Remember the crazy graph? It's gone. We finished with our contingency intact and a modest predicted surplus. And my thanks to all of you, and particularly to Vice President Hinken, for leading that effort. I love that I can get applause with the budget. I've never been in a place where that happens. Let's make that a tradition as well. I did think about the budget and RCM, and I waited with some energy and curiosity as we close the fiscal year. But it's not only RCM and the budget that gives me energy and excitement and confidence in this institution. Through the leadership and the generosity of the Board of Trustees, we're going to open a state-of-the-art athletics complex this fall, one that will serve student athletes, club sports, intramurals, and the entire San Rafael community for many years to come. And with a little more fundraising, we'll have a beach volleyball court. But in addition to a fantastic facility, you need to know, and I don't know if you all do, that our student athletes have received the Pac West Academic Achievement Award 3 years in a row. Every year that we have been a member of the Pac West Conference, we have won the Academic Achievement Award. So I think that's a good bar for the new athletics director to think about as we bring that person in. I also think the work by and for students in and out of the classroom has been remarkable at Dominican. I'm going to list a few things, knowing it can't be comprehensive, but to remind you of the work that we do and how powerful it is. So the Bachelor of Fine Arts program in dance. We know that it gets national and international recognition, but I don't know if you knew that literally every one of the 2012 recipients of the Bachelor of Fine Arts degrees graduated with honors last spring. Through a strategic use of internal initiative funds and external grants, we've built a robust service learning program with the Canal District. Faculty in Big History have presented their groundbreaking curricular and pedagogical work at conferences nationally and internationally, and have put us on the map as a leading higher education institution in the development of this young field. Meanwhile, in the School of Health and Natural Sciences, every student participated in at least one engaged learning activity as we presently define it at Dominican. H&S faculty and students studied and conducted research in Sweden, Costa Rica, Uganda, Tanzania, and South Africa. And the faculty of H&S secured more than $400,000 in new grant funding while hiring Dominican's first endowed professor. The Venture Greenhouse, just opened last year, is already a hub for North Bay entrepreneurs and a learning lab for Dominican students. This past year, more than 50 students from across the university worked on projects involving Venture Greenhouse clients. And the School of Business and Leadership has been developing high potential managers through its leadership certificate program. In addition to a thriving set of open cohort offerings, a customized version of the program is now being delivered to County of Marin managers who had an initial taste and said everyone should go through this program. And ours is one of only 30 business schools in the nation selected to participate in an Aspen Institute consortium on rethinking undergraduate business education. The School of Education and Counseling Psychology has developed a partnership with Coleman Elementary to become a professional development school, while expanding our expertise in work with autistic children and adults. SECP has also nurtured a relationship with Nelson Mandela Metropolitan University in South Africa. It expands our cultural understanding while offering new opportunities in that still evolving democracy. And in the midst of this work, you created together a lasting experience for our students. Last spring, we graduated 313 undergraduates and 162 graduate students who are now prepared to take their Dominican education values into their communities and into the world. So think of what we have done, and now imagine what we will do and what we can do. As requested by the Commission on Presidential Debates, this academic year we will be the first U.S. university to lead a discussion of the electoral process with partner institutions in Thailand, South Africa, and Greece. We will continue our work with the Tony Blair Faith Foundation, building connections that link students and ideas across traditional borders. And we will continue to expand our presence in Big History. And of greatest importance, we will move from discussion to action in our vision for engaged learning. We'll explore how to create partnerships that build on Dominican strengths and expand our reach in the Bay Area and beyond. We will structure our learning beyond the classroom so that it is tied directly to curricular offerings and ensure that the experiences are integrated and lasting. We will plan for a physical renovation of the campus, one that provides space for engaged learning, celebrates our heritage, and in the words of numerous campus conversations last year, brings the beauty of the outside in. We will celebrate and learn from the diversity of the campus, continue our work towards a more sustainable community, and focus and strengthen our international efforts. This is why I believe Dominican has a distinctive role in American higher education. Because of our history and the values that we inherited from the sisters. Because of you, because of what you have already done, what we have already done, and the lives together that we have already changed. And because of our belief that education is about both individual and social good. It is this history and this vision and this commitment that will allow us to serve as a model of the best of liberal and professional education. Several years ago, Emory University launched a partnership with the Tibetan government in exile. They focused on language, heritage, reflection, and international exchange. At the ceremonies inaugurating that effort, the Dalai Lama spoke of the importance of education to a life of meaning. He discussed this intersection between the life of the mind and a life of engagement. And he concluded simply, "The compassionate heart," he said, "is teachable." So students come to Dominican seeking knowledge and seeking meaning, seeking learning and seeking engagement. We will develop their hearts and minds through a model of engaged learning that embraces the best of their potential and calls on the best of our abilities. Of course, it is important work, and it is my great honor to lead you in this endeavor. Welcome to the academic year at Dominican.